So this game played out pretty much as you would expect, with Manchester United, the Premier League side, dominating possession throughout the game against Charlton Athletic, the League One side. And so there wasn't much of a tactical battle, it was more how United would look to break down Charlton as they sat deep in their defensive block. But there were still quite a few interesting features that I did pick up from this game. But before I go any further, let me tell you why you should consider downloading the OneFootball app, because it's become my all-in-one place for keeping up to date with the latest football news, whilst also being able to follow Manchester United specifically, giving me access to all the latest news, videos and articles. It's also the best place to keep up to date with any live football, as during the World Cup they had a live ticker for any updates on the match, confirmation for the lineups as well as a rating for each player, and also all the team stats you need as well to get a better in-depth view of how the game played out rather than just the goals scored. So if you want to support the channel and think you'd also be interested in looking at the OneFootball app, I'll leave it linked in the description and comments below. So from the start of the game we saw Charlton being quite passive, allowing United centre-backs to have the ball and bring the ball out of the defensive third, as they chose to sit in a mid-block 4-4-2 shape, which was really a 4-4-1-1, with Fraser sitting slightly deeper than Leeburn up front, picking up McTominay in that deep single pivot position. United started with their familiar 2-3-2-3 position shape, however because Charlton were really playing with just a lone striker at times, having Alejandro Martinez and Harry Maguire as the back two was effective at circulating the ball around Charlton's frontline press. However, the option was always there when Leeburn and Fraser did play more as a front two, and so we would see one of the fullbacks, either Malacia on the left or Dalot on the right, drop deep to create a back three and give United a wider base to circulate possession. And I actually thought that in possession, Harry Maguire perfectly suited one of these wide positions in the back three, particularly from the right side. We are used to seeing him playing from the left where he's able to carry the ball forward, but from the right he was able to stride forward into the space wide of Charlton's front line. And throughout the first half we saw him play a number of fantastic switches of play over to Garnacho, who would hold his width on the left side. And I will analyse Garnacho's performance specifically later on in more detail, but within the first 15 minutes of the game we saw Maguire play a number of switches of play, and nearly every single time Garnacho was able to bring the ball under control and get the better of Claire at right back, and even managed to get himself a couple of shooting opportunities inside of the box. Now with no Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes or Christian Eriksen in the centre of midfield, it was going to be interesting to see how Ten Hag structured those three players, and what we saw was McTominay was clearly playing as a deep single pivot in that Casemiro role, and because we often saw Diego Dalot inverting infield, playing alongside McTominay at times, this allowed both Mainu and Fred ahead of McTominay to push up between the lines, sitting in the half space. But as we've seen from Ten Hag's possession system over the last few games, the centre of midfield in particular is very fluid, and so we saw a lot of positional movement between the three. Here we see Maguire plays a ball into Mainu, and because Fraser and Leeburn as a front two have looked to engage both Maguire and Alejandro Martinez a bit higher up the pitch in this situation, this gives United a 3v2 in the centre of the pitch. And so with Charlton's midfield double pivot of Dobson and Morgan looking to man-to-man press Fred and Mainu, they end up getting stretched apart, with Mainu dropping deeper to get on the ball and Fred holding a position further on the left side, and this allows McTominay, who's a free man in this situation, to make a run ahead of play into the space between and in behind Charlton's midfield double pivot, and a series of quick passes from United in the middle third allows McTominay to get in behind the Charlton midfield line, and they just can't get the final through ball right, with Elanga moving too early and being offside, and McTominay probably overweighting the pass as well. For the majority of the game the play was played inside the middle third, with United controlling possession, and so with Anthony and Garnacho holding the advanced width in the system, with Malacia also overlapping sometimes on the left, the majority of the time we saw Diego Dalot take up inverted central positions, often in front of the Charlton midfield line, allowing Mainu and Fred to push higher up the pitch, as I've already said. And so the pattern of play really came down to how well United could break down Charlton's deep defensive block, and despite how congested it was in Charlton's defensive third, United have the players in deep positions to play those incisive passes into players between the lines, as we saw here. Alejandro Martinez plays a pass into Garnacho, who's moved infield, taking up a position in the half space, and from here Malacia makes an overlapping run in behind Charlton's right-sided midfielder, who's dropped back, giving Charlton almost a back five at this point, but Garnacho plays a ball into Malacia. And from here Malacia is able to play a cutback to Fred on the edge of the box, who has a pretty good shooting opportunity which is eventually blocked. But what was quite interesting in this game in the first half was that whilst Diego Dalot was on the pitch, he was actually given a lot of freedom to push further forward, especially into central areas. Here we see as Martinez has the ball on the edge of Charlton's defensive third, Dalot is sitting between the lines of the Charlton midfield and defence, and as the ball gets shifted over to Malacia on the left side, rather than do what we usually see from inverted fullbacks, which is holding a deeper and narrower position on the far side, we actually see that Dalot moves over to the left to join the play, and this gives United an overload, allowing Dalot to move into space inside of the box. Malacia finds him, and they play an excellent 1-2, playing through a congested area, and Malacia gets into a pretty dangerous crossing position, which is eventually cut out. As I spoke about in some of the previous match analysis videos, all of which will be linked in the description below, it seems like Ten Hag is preferring to move to that 3-1-6 position shape, and the reason behind this is that it allows you to get 3 players sitting between the lines of the opposition's defence and midfield. In this example, we can see McTominay sitting as a deep single pivot in front of the back 3, with Malacia and Antony holding the advanced width, and you can see that Garnacho, Fred and Mainu are the players sitting between the lines, with the deeper lying players like Maguire and Lisandro Martinez tasked with playing those incisive passes into those players and having them turn and move into the final third. But despite United actually creating some good chances through a few intricate passing moves opening up the Charlton defensive shape, it was actually a long range shot from Antony which broke the deadlock. Now, even though the goal does come from Antony's individual brilliance, if we look at the build up, we can actually see the role that Diego Dalot plays. We see here as Fred receives the ball on the left side of the pitch that Dalot has a deeper position, with Blackett-Taylor also in close proximity and also cutting off the straight pass from Fred over to Antony. However, as Fred moves forward with the ball, we see Dalot make a charging run forward. This drags Blackett-Taylor out of that area, opening up the passing lane from Fred to Antony. And now when Antony receives the ball on the corner of the box, he's able to get the ball out of his feet. And in terms of this curling shot into the far corner, Antony is definitely a specialist and arguably one of the best in the world from this sort of position, as the accuracy and pace on his shot into the far corner is absolutely perfect, and it puts United 1-0 up inside the first half. Now, I will come on to Rashford's 2 goals which sealed the victory for United later on in the video, but this was a pretty easy win for United, nothing tactically special because of the opposition they were facing. But in terms of individual performances, there were a few who impressed me. I thought Harry Maguire in possession was very good. His long passing ability, in particular when he was switching play over to Garnacho on the far side, was very, very good. But it was probably Garnacho who was a player who impressed me most throughout this game. As I said earlier on, there were a number of different times when Harry Maguire would switch the ball out to Garnacho, and Garnacho was excellent at bringing the ball down under control, as he does here with his chest. And immediately after bringing the ball down, he knocks the ball past the right back Claire, and then as he's racing down the line, absolutely sells him a dummy, leaving him on the floor, and is able to work his way into the box into a shooting position, which doesn't quite come off in the end. But that wasn't the only direct play that we saw from Garnacho. We also saw Tom Heaton release the ball quickly after claiming inside of his box. And as the ball's in the air, Garnacho is able to knock the ball past a Charlton player first time, and is able to carry the ball to the edge of the box where he slips in Kobbie Mainoo, but this time the attack eventually breaks down. Another example was here within the first 2 minutes of the game as McTominay slips in Garnacho down the left side, and once again Garnacho is able to use his direct dribbling to drive past the Charlton right back, and he gets into a crossing position, cuts the ball back into a dangerous area for Diego Dalot, who skies the ball over the bar on his left foot. Now, I could go through multiple other examples, a few which came in the second half, but the point is that Garnacho was excellent in this game because of his decisiveness and willingness to drive at the opposition fullback. This is something I have been heavily critical of both Antony and Jadon Sancho for not doing enough, and so in this game I think Garnacho made a great claim to potentially be one of Ten Hag's starting wingers. Towards the end of the game, despite the scoreline still being 1-0, United was still in control, and Rashford would add 2 more goals to make the scoreline seem just as comfortable. The first Rashford goal comes from United countering quickly, exploiting the massive amount of space that Charlton have left in midfield. Casemiro plays a phenomenal ball out to Pellistri, and from here, as it's Pellistri, McTominay and Rashford in the attack, McTominay actually makes a very good run round the side of Pellistri, which means a Charlton defender on that right side can't confront Pellistri, allowing him to move closer to the box, and he feeds the ball into Rashford, who manages to get the ball out of his feet and finish comfortably, giving United a 2-0 lead. The second goal once again comes from a fantastic Casemiro pass, this time with the outside of his boot, with Rashford taking up a perfect position, exploiting the space in the Charlton back line, and as he moves forward on goal, yet again it's another composed and clinical finish, this time with his left foot, giving United a 3-0 scoreline. So there wasn't much of a tactical battle to really analyse in this game. There definitely will be for the Manchester derby coming up this weekend. But there were a number of good performances. I thought Harry Maguire and in particular Alejandro Garnacho impressed me. Kobbie Mainoo didn't impress me as much as Garnacho did. I do think I still need to see more of him in the first team to fully come to an assessment, but I will be doing a whole analysis video on him, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when that video comes out. But thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, check the description for more videos as well, and put your thoughts on the game in the comments section below.